Hi, welcome to my channel. I've done a few baby name videos, but I've never actually shared with you guys my own personal baby name lists and the kind of names I like. So I thought I would do baby names I love but didn't use. I have a little boy and a little girl, so I have a long list of options that we didn't use in the end. I prefer kind of edgy and unique names. I didn't want my kids to have names that there will be like 2 or 3 others with the same name in their class at school. So that's kind of the list that I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a boy version and a girl version. This is going to be the girl version. So if you want to see the boy version in future, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell and it will be up soon. So let's get started. So first I'll tell you the name we did end up choosing, and that is Odette. So my daughter is called Odette and I love that name. I think it's just so feminine and unique. A lot of people would know it from Swan Lake, and the good swan is called Odette. My son is called Wolf and he's named after Mozart, Wolfgang. So they both have kind of the classical music theme. Yeah, that's what we went for, Odette. So the first on the list of names we didn't use is Aurora. And this was going to be my firstborn's name if it was a girl. When I was pregnant, we decided if it was a boy, we were going to call it Wolf, and it was a girl, we were going to call it Aurora. And it was a boy, so he ended up being Wolf. And I just felt like I didn't really want to carry the name Aurora over to my secondborn. I wanted a clean slate with the new baby, but I love it. It's the name of Sleeping Beauty, the Princess Aurora. The next name is Darci, and I absolutely love Darci. I love that it's gender neutral, it's really cool. The reason we didn't go for it is because by the time I was pregnant, there were already kind of a few Darcys around in our lives, and I didn't want her to be that Darci among other Darcys that were close to us. So yeah, that's why we didn't go for it in the end, but I love Darci. The next name is Ivy, and I absolutely love the name Ivy, but the reason we didn't go for it is because when I was pregnant and I was telling people, oh, we're thinking of the name Ivy, they'd kind of look at me like, is that a joke, or you're serious? And I didn't understand what was so funny about it. Then I understood what they were thinking. Basically, for my pregnancy, for both my pregnancies, I was so sick with hyperemesis the whole 9 months, and I had to go in and out of hospital for IV treatment. So when I said IV, they were associating it with IV treatment, not like the plant or flower. Is it a plant or flower? IV. So once they said that and put that in my head, I couldn't take it out of my head. So then Ivy was out. The next name is Harley, and I really loved Harley. I thought it was so cool and so edgy. You know, Harley Quinn, Harley Davidson, but my husband wasn't really into it, so we didn't get very far with that one. Next up is Bluebell, and I absolutely love Bluebell. I love how vintage and unique it is, but sorry, my dog is snoring. So if you're hearing this kind of weird snoring noise, that's my dog over there. But Bluebell, yeah, I love Bluebell, but I just felt like it didn't really fit in with our family, if that makes sense. I think Bluebell is very dainty and delicate and like elegant. And I mean, I'm not saying our family aren't elegant and delicate, but it just didn't really fit in with our vibe. The next name is Wilde, and I absolutely loved Wilde. I wish we could have gone for Wilde, but I just felt like with my son being called Wolf, I couldn't really have a daughter called Wilde. It was too matchy, like Wild Wolf. It didn't go well together, and also they both start with W and they both have silent E's on the end. It was just too matchy. The next name is Odile, and this is also a name from Swan Lake, but while Odette is the good swan in Swan Lake, Odile is the evil swan. So when I was comparing the two, which do I prefer, I had to go for the good swan. I mean, that's not the only reason I chose Odette, but it did give it the edge, the fact that she was the good swan. Next up is Goldie, after my favorite actress Goldie Hawn. The reason we didn't go for this one is because when I was asking people what they thought of Goldie, they weren't associating it with a name. They weren't associating it with Goldie Hawn. They were kind of like the color, like, did you just make that up? It didn't sound like a real name to them. So I thought that maybe it was a little too out there. So then the next name on the list is Marigold. So I figured, okay, well, if we name the child Marigold and then have her nickname be Goldie, like we can all call her Goldie, but it won't be, people won't look at it as a kind of made up name. But then I also had the fear that, well, what if she's only called Marigold and the nickname Goldie doesn't stick? And I wasn't that much into Marigold, so Marigold and Goldie both, yeah, came off the list. Next name is Darlene, which I absolutely love, and that was really high up for me, but my husband vetoed it. He wasn't into it. I loved Darlene, and I love it actually means darling, so I thought that was so cute. Next up is Ophelia, and I think that's quite similar to Odette in that they're both quite unique and very feminine. I can't remember the reasons we didn't go for Ophelia in the end, but I was very happy that we didn't, because when Odette was 2 months old, there was a storm, Ophelia, which caused a lot of damage and destruction and was just a very bad thing. Any other time, Ophelia would have been a great name, but I was just so relieved because I didn't want my newborn to be associated with something so bad and awful. Next up is Dusty, and this was my husband's first choice. He loves Dusty Springfield, so he really was pushing for Dusty. Every day when I was pregnant, he was blasting Dusty Springfield, trying to convince me how epic this music is and how amazing it would be for her to be called Dusty. So, and I do love Dusty, so in the end we did call her Dusty as her middle name. So she's Odette Dusty. Next up is Edie. I thought this was such a cool vintage name, Edie, but my husband, he's not really into the vintage names. He doesn't see them as kind of cool and unique. He sees them more as old lady names. So I couldn't convince him otherwise. So as much as I loved Edie, yeah, it came off the list. Next is Dolly, and I really love Dolly. I think it's so cute and girly. I can't remember why we didn't go for Dolly in the end. Next is Delilah, and this is another one that I really loved, and it was top of my list. But again, I would see it as vintage, my husband would see it as more old-fashioned old lady. Yeah, I couldn't get him out of that mindset. The next name is Stella, and I really wanted Stella because, well, first I think it's such a beautiful name, but also my husband's grandmother was called Stella, so I thought it was a really nice tribute, you know, keep a family name for our daughter. But he was in a band that had a song called Stella, and Stella was about a cat. So he couldn't disassociate the name Stella being for a cat. You know, the cat was called Stella. Next up is Arielle. I loved Disney princess names, and I was adding them all to the list straight away, and my husband started realizing that all of these names were Disney princesses, so he started vetoing them. So I suggested Arielle, and he liked it for about 5 minutes before he realized it was actually Ariel from The Little Mermaid, just pronounced differently, so he quickly took that back off the list. Next up is Belle, another Disney princess name, and this one is from Beauty and the Beast, Belle. And same with Aurora. So our firstborn, if it was a girl, she was going to be Aurora Belle, so her middle name was going to be Belle. I know, 2 Disney princess names. My husband was not happy with that, but the reason we didn't go for Belle was the exact same reason we didn't go for Aurora, because it was kind of pinned to our firstborn baby, and our secondborn, we just wanted totally new names. We didn't want to just carry it over. Next one is Harlow, and I loved Harlow, how vintage and unique it was. Yeah, Harlow's a good name. The next name is Odessa, and we were kind of thinking, okay, we really love Odette. Is there any variants of Odette that might be better? So we were kind of going between Odette and Odessa. The only thing was, there was a club in Dublin that we used to go to all the time called Odessa. I couldn't get the club association out of my head. The next name is Lola, and I love Lola. I think it's so unique and cool. Next up is Adelle, another name I really love. I think it's so beautiful and feminine. The reason we didn't go for Adelle is because my husband and I, before we were married, we broke up for a little while, and when we were broken up, my sad breakup song was Someone Like You by Adele. I thought it was bad omen, basically. I didn't want my daughter to be named after the artist associated with the sad breakup of, or you know, her parents. Next is Teddi, and I think Teddi is just such a cute, fun name. And the only thing is that when I was a kid, our dog was called Teddi, and at first I was like, oh, it would be nice to have, you know, a tribute to my dog, but I just felt like I had to keep the two separate. Next up is Dottie, kind of similar to Dolly. A League of Their Own is one of my favorite movies. It's with Tom Hanks. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it because it is so good, and the lead character is called Dottie Hansen. So that's where I first heard the name, and I absolutely love it. Dottie. Next up is Darla, and I think this is such a cool, unique, and feminine name. I love Darla. The only thing is I couldn't get out of my head, in Just Good Friends, Anna Faris says the name Darla in such a funny way. She says Darla, and I could not get that out of my head. So every time I was reading over my list of names, whenever I'd read Darla, I'd hear Anna Faris in my head saying Darla, and I was like, okay, I can't do this. It can't make the cut, because I can't think of that every single time I call my daughter's name or write her name. I'll have Anna Faris in my head saying Darla. Next up is Aurelia, and this is one of the characters in Love Actually, and I loved this name, but when I was writing down my list, I wrote down this one and I asked my husband to say it out loud how he'd pronounce it, and I think first he said Aurelia or Arielle. He couldn't get it right, so I figured, okay, I don't want to have them live a life where no one can pronounce that name right. Next is Phoenix, another one that I thought was so cool and edgy. And the reason that we didn't go for Phoenix is because my son is called Wolf, and even though he's named after Mozart, so even though it's not an animal name, people still associate it with a wolf, an animal wolf. And Phoenix is obviously a bird, so I didn't want both my kids to have animal names. Next is Priscilla. I love this name because it's so unique and cool. You know, everyone knows Priscilla from Elvis and Priscilla, but I've never met a Priscilla. I don't know any Priscillas, so it's really uncommon, which I really liked. Yeah, whoop! Thought that was a very cool name. So that was me dropping my phone, by the way. That was that. That's why I made that noise. So that's it. They were all the names on my list for baby girls. As I said, we're going to be doing the boy version soon, and I'll share with you all the names that were on the list for my son. So make sure you stay tuned if you want to see that video. That's it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.